everyone, welcome to today's webinar, LGBTQ Inclusion in Business, Business Cases in Japan, co-hosted by Ikigai Authentic, FocusCore, and the U.S.-Japan Council. My name is Himeno Nimi, Business Coordinator at Ikigai Authentic, and I'll be your host today. Do you know the history of Pride Month? Pride Month has been celebrated in one form or another since 1970 to honor the 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Manhattan, which symbolized a turning point for the gay liberation movement in the US. The celebration initially started as a one-day Gay Pride Day held on the last Sunday of June, but this has grown and become evangelized into a month-long series of events held all over the world to celebrate the LGBTQ community. And on that note, please allow me to introduce today's agenda. Firstly, opening remarks from Suzanne Basala, CEO of the U.S.-Japan Council, followed by a sample seminar from Yuta Hasumi, Managing Director of Ikigai Authentic, on what is LGBTQ, LGBTQ facts and figures, allyship. Then a panel discussion on the topic of business cases in Japan by our fantastic speakers, Sanae Endo from Gap Japan, Yumi Takahata from Deloitte Japan, and David Sweet from FocusCore. And to end, closing remarks from David Sweet, CEO of FocusCore. If at any time you have any questions or comments, please feel free to raise them using the Q&A function in this Zoom webinar. Now, today's opening remarks will be from Suzanne Basala. Due to the time difference, she is unable to join us live and the message has been pre-recorded. Please note that the video comes with Japanese subtitles.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Suzanne Basala, President and CEO of the U.S.-Japan Council. USJC is an educational nonprofit that is committed to developing and connecting diverse leaders to create a stronger U.S.-Japan relationship. Our members believe people-to-people relationships are a powerful way to bring together leaders in the United States and Japan to address and create solutions to mutual concerns. Pride Month gives us an opportunity to show our allyship and to demonstrate in our humble way that we welcome LGBTQ+ perspectives as we strive to build a richer, more inclusive U.S.-Japan relationship. We know that people thrive when they can bring their whole selves to all that they do. LGBTQ+ allyship requires doing the hard work to educate ourselves and to be willing to be uncomfortable and to acknowledge blind spots. I started my career in the U.S. Navy just as Don't Ask, Don't Tell policies started. More recently, I worked in a Silicon Valley tech company that infused a core value of be yourself. In the journey from Don't Ask, Don't Tell to be yourself, I've learned enough to know I still have far to travel in my journey as an inclusive leader, and I will always continue to try. The U.S.-Japan Council is honored to join Ikigai Authentic and FocusCore in co-hosting this webinar on LGBTQ+ inclusion in business and to examine business cases in Japan. We'll learn about the challenges and difficulties faced by LGBTQ+ employees in the workplace, gain foundational knowledge that managers should be equipped with, and examine some business cases in Japan. We'll also discuss what it means to adopt LGBTQ+ friendly initiatives and the significance of corporations and organizations undertaking LGBTQ+ friendly measures in the workplace. We hope that through this discussion, you will join us in gaining new insights and creating more LGBTQ+ friendly workplaces. Thank you so much for joining us.
Now, we will have a self-introduction from Yuta Hasumi, followed by a sample LGBTQ seminar. Please sit back with a cup of tea or sit forward with pen and paper, but in either case, enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar LGBTQ Inclusion in Business. I'm Yuta Hasmi from Ikigai Authentic, Japan. Sorry, Ikigai Authentic is based in London, the United Kingdom, but just we are so delighted to have everyone from around the world. So we are so honored to celebrate the Pride Month together with you by co-hosting this webinar together with US-Japan Council and FocusCore. This is a huge impact across Japan, the United States, and the United Kingdom. So we, Ikigai Authentic, is a global diversity and inclusion consulting firm. So last 5 years, we have been receiving so many requests about LGBTQ inclusion in the workplace. So possibly 30 to 40% of our projects are focused on LGBTQ with our corporate clients. So now we are going to show the data more later, but they're more and more aware in their workplace, business, and also Japan region. So today, I'm so honored to show our allyship and also take you to the journey around what LGBTQ is and how we can be allies with some data and figures. Thank you so much for joining today. And so I hope you find it informative and also enjoy the webinar. So first, what is LGBTQ? I will not take lots of time here because I'm pretty sure most of you are allies and so here for finding out practical solutions. So LGBT stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and a transgender. The acronym in sexual orientation and a gender identity. So we also have another acronym called SOGI or SOGI plus E, SOGI E or SOGI E. So SOGI is the acronym of sexual orientation and the gender identity. So when we are talking about the minority in SOGI, which means, our sexual orientation is, excuse me, sexual orientation is that we are attracted by same sex or any sex or not any of the sex, or gender identity is not matched with our physical gender we were born with. So the reason why I was talking about only LGBT is that it is much more common in the media in Japan. However, LGBT, only 4 acronyms represent everything, not everything. So we have much more inclusive terminologies used as LGBTQ plus or LGBTQIA plus. So we say that there is a diversity within gender identity and sexual orientation. And sometimes that they are very graduated as well. So what is Q plus or QIA plus? So Q stands for queer or questioning, also intersex and asexual, non-binary, and pansexual. So there are some of us not categorizing our gender as one of each. So at the time, we call ourselves non-binary. So Japanese famous singer Utada Hikaru, so she just outed in this Pride Month to identify herself non-binary. Also, let's see the data about facts and figures. So what's going on in Japan? Also, how the COVID-19 is affecting LGBTQ communities, as well as why this is important to talk about in business. So, as I said, we got much more requests from the corporate clients, and so we are so happy to work with each of them for bigger impact and also the further inclusion. So we got more requests since last year after Japan revised Anti-Harassment Act. So people are more thinking about LGBTQ inclusion from anti-harassment perspectives. Also, as all of you know, diversity and inclusion drive innovation. So there are untapped, unconscious potential market. So by addressing LGBTQ culture, policy, products, and service. So how many of us are LGBTQ? So there's some data showing, 8.9% of the population are LGBT in Japan, 6.3% in the United Kingdom, and 5.6% in the US. So this looks like, Japan has more LGBTQ people, but this is not. So let me explain. So there are no kind of common methodology across countries. So, they use the different statistics and data and it's a formula. So we cannot compare in countries, but we can see that probably 1 in 10 to 20 are LGBTQ in the world. So let's see about data in Japan. As I say, the LGBTQ topics are much more aware in Japan society. So 91% of us are aware or have heard about the term LGBT. This dramatically increased from 2016, which was 54%. So 57 of us are knowledgeable in the certain level about LGBT concept. However, 36% of us still don't know how to approach or react to the topic. Then still, around 80% of LGBT people have not come out to anybody in Japan. Why? Because 52% people feel that their miscomprehension and false stereotypes surrounding them. Also, 53% people hope for advancement in knowledge and understanding of LGBT and sexual minorities. So now, Japan have been making progress in terms of laws. So as you might hear before, now more than 100 local governments, 地方自治体 in Japanese, have issued partnership certificate. And so 1,700 the same-sex couples get the partnership certificate as of March 2021. Then 2019 marriage equality for all Japan, 13 same-sex couples filed a proceeding against the government, stating that it is unconstitutional to disallow same-sex marriage. Then, as I said before, Anti-Harassment Act, the definition of sexual and power harassment were revised. So now employers are mandated to mitigate the risk of possible harassment. It was also clearly stated that discrimination on the basis sexual orientation and gender identity was a form of harassment. Also, LGBT Equality Act this year. So we are trying to submit to the law, like promotion of LGBT understanding law called anti-discrimination law. However, it's declined with the discriminatory words. It goes against the conservation of species in the Liberal Democratic Party. Then the diet closed with the bill submitted. So we are still long way. We are still long way to go. However, Japan has been making progress. Still, same-sex marriage is not legalized, even though the Anti-Discrimination Act. So still, we can see the changes dramatically last 5 years. However, Japan has seen limited progress in LGBTQ inclusive laws over the last 20 years compared to other countries. This is the data from OECD, and so in the 35 countries. So there's a comparison between 2019 and 1999. So the countries such as Canada, Portugal, and France, Netherlands have made huge progress in terms of LGBTQ inclusive laws. However, looking at Japan, so we haven't made big changes. So we have been, so we are quite neutral. Having said that, LGBTQ or like same-sex sexual intercourse are not illegal. However, they are not protected by law, with such as anti-discrimination law, or like they cannot apply for the marriage equality. Also, COVID-19 have made impacted LGBTQ communities more negatively compared to non-LGBTQ people. Now all of us as work from home. Also, we are not allowed to travel such easily compared to before the COVID. So it's affecting any of us. However, 56% of LGBT people faces job loss versus 44% of non-LGBT people. 75% of LGBT people's mental health negatively affected. Also, 266% increase in the number of calls LGBT helpline in Spain. So 79% of LGBT people who experienced worse mental health due to the coronavirus lockdown in the UK. So 52% of LGBT people whose mental health deteriorated over the pandemic in Japan. 22% of the LGBT people who have experienced poverty also in Japan. So now I am holding seminar from home, and so possibly many of you are working from home 2 or 3 days a week, or 5 days a week. So imagine when you're having a conference or a meeting with your colleagues and a client, sometimes it's really sweet to see, some of our children or the dogs and the cat stepping in the camera. But LGBTQ people are really worried if, their partner, if they are not out, and also their partner are shown in the camera, which is having their colleagues know, they are LGBTQ, and also they are living with the same-sex partners. Also, if I contract the virus, how should I inform my or my partner's workplace of my close contacts? Because some companies requires employees to report to the company once we got the COVID. At the time, we have to tell. So in some companies' regulation, we have to tell them how possibly we got the coronavirus. At that time, if the close contact would be same-sex partners, we might have to report or not, or how. So having shown all the data about impact of COVID-19, so LGBT people are negatively affected by this pandemic. So now we are talking about more in the workplace. So there's some data showing 58% of LGBT, even 29% of non-LGBT community feel there is much discriminatory speech and behaviors in Japan. So looking back at the comparison in countries by OECD, UK seems much more inclusive in terms of LGBTQ in the society. However, still 53% of LGBT people have experienced harassment at work. And 19% of LGBT people have personally experienced direct verbal discrimination and harassment from colleagues and clients. Yet only 30% of them have the confidence to report it to their in-house consultation services. Why? Because as I see, around 80% of people are not out to anybody, even in the workplace. So reporting to the internal service, internal compliance office, we have to say, hey, we got a harassment because of our sexual orientation and gender identity. So at that time, we have to be possibly out to someone in the workplace. That's why people tend to hesitate even to report, even though they experienced possible harassment. So now we are looking at the data, what's going on in the Japan society. So how we are making progress in terms of the inclusive law, also why we have to address LGBTQ inclusion in the workplace. So again, today we are talking about LGBTQ inclusive behaviors as ally in the workplace. So as a business professionals, we are required to be equipped with the certain knowledge and challenges LGBTQ people are facing in the workplace. So now it's important to show our allyship in the workplace. So let's talk about how. So what it means to be an LGBT allies. As we can see, less than 10% of the populations are LGBTQ. On the other hand, 90% of us are non-LGBTQ. So what non-LGBTQ people can do for the communities? So if you're non-LGBTQ, or even if you are lesbian or gay or bisexual, standing for other sexual orientation or gender identity, we can act as an ally. Why? Because 52% of the people who have certain knowledge still answers that they have no interest in LGBTQ plus matters. Also, 40% of us don't know how to support LGBTQ communities. So Ikigai Authentic is advocating 6 steps to becoming an ally. So step 1, educate yourself. Step 2, own your privilege. Step 3, be a visible ally. Step 4, build an ally network. Step 5, be their voice. And step 6, build business cases. Let's take a look at each step. So first, educate yourself. I would like to thank you again here for participating in today's webinar. So as an ally, take interest, equip yourself with the right knowledge, and then take time to deepen your understanding until like we can take it personal. So we can start with attending the seminar like today, also directly listening to LGBTQ people, what kind of challenges they have been facing in the workplace, in your team. Also, there are lots of news on the news and articles in the media, especially in the Pride Month. You can read the data, you can read the article from them. Also, under the state of emergency or lockdown, we have so much time to spend, watch the movies and the TV dramas. There's so many LGBTQ themed films and TV series available in the streaming service or even in TV. So we can learn about the information by watching them, even with family. Step number 2, own your privilege. So we might be privileged. So being in the majority is something that is automatically accorded to you. So ask ourselves, perhaps my rights and opportunities, which seemed natural and obvious to me, are privileges to others. I should not take them for granted. Because so when most of us get married, or unfortunately, our in-law family are sick, we can apply to the certain corporate policies, such as honeymoon vacation, like some childcare allowance, also elderly care leaves. But what happens if we cannot be legally married? So keep this in my mind, keep in this your mind, and make a list of your privileges. Number 3, be a visible ally. Excuse me. So we can actively express your support. Why? Because this is not visible if we are LGBTQ or not. At the same time, it is not so visible if we are allies or not. So we have to express our allyship by sporting items which are rainbow colors items. This is the symbolic colors of LGBTQ communities. Also display ally goods by your desks to convey your allyships. So today I'm wearing the t-shirt. Also, so so as you can see in the right top, we changed our corporate logo to the rainbow for the Pride Month. Also, we created a sticker. Can you see in the camera? So, if you want these stickers, please let us know after the seminar. So we are more than happy to send them over to you. So also, there are some companies are creating the LGBTQ friendly products and the service. So I just got the rainbow Lego called Everybody is Awesome. So I created it with my neighbor's daughter by explaining, with each color's meaning. So by then, the revenue profit of the products will be donated to LGBTQ communities. So, whether direct or indirect ways, we can support LGBTQ communities as allies. Also, build on an ally network. Join forces with like-minded people and grow the ally network internally and externally. Please take part in events like this. Also, employee resources group and volunteering activities to broaden your impact and bring about change. So again, so we are so delighted to co-host this event with FocusCore and the US-Japan Council. We are bonded as allyship to make bigger impact. Then step 5, be their voice. So upon hearing discriminatory remarks or jokes in the workplace, so minority group often find it difficult to react. Why? Because they fear if I speak up, they might discover that I am an LGBTQ person or think that I am blowing things out of proportion. So that's why, people are LGBTQ people are hesitant to speak up about their experience around harassment. So we can be their voice. So speak out against inappropriate remarks and seek the necessary support and services. Be an advocate of the LGBTQ communities. Then step 6, build business cases. So please plan what business initiatives to employ by your position and the department, then walk the talk. Again, so this is really important to address LGBTQ inclusion in business. There are certain data LGBTQ consumers' yearly expenditure accounts for $3.7 trillion US dollars. Also, there are other data showing 87% of LGBT adults would consider purchasing from a brand that provided equal workplace benefit. Also, that survey found 23% of LGBT adults have switched products or service because another company was more LGBT supportive, even if that brand was more expensive or less convenient, according to Harris Interactive. So what exactly we have to do? So first, this apply LGBT-friendly policy and culture. Like I said, company can do themselves, company do own their own corporate policy and regulations, even though this is not legalized in the society. So the employees could apply for same-sex marriage allowance, for example. Also, you can include harassment against anti-harassment against sexual orientation and gender identity in your code of conduct. Also, you can invent LGBTQ friendly product and service. Also, consider new market development. Also, by addressing LGBTQ inclusion internally and externally, we can also showcase our allyship in the branding, sponsorship, and CSR activities. So I was going through like 6 steps to becoming an ally. So now I'm so delighted to welcome fantastic speakers. Sanai Endo from Gap Japan, also Yumi Takahata from Deloitte Japan, to share more practical solutions. So we also have the wonderful moderator, David Sweet from FocusCore today. So I'd like to hand it over to David. Over to you.
Thank you, Yuta. That was very informative. I appreciate that. So welcome, Sanai-san and Yumi-san. It's great to see you both again. So
thank you, David.
Let's jump into what made you passionate about D&I. Let's use that as kind of a springboard for introductions. Endo-san, how about start with?
All right. I recently joined Gap about 5 months ago. But my relationship with the Gap started long time ago. It's because I grew up in the San Francisco California. And my neighborhood was predominantly a white community, and I was a Japanese back in the 80s and 90s. And people considered that that could not be positive. So I tried to simulate something that I wasn't. And to cover up my identity, I was always hanging out with a gay man. And he is still my best friend. And he was also trying to cover his LGBT background from his, especially a close families. So for me, this issue is such a personal issue. And the practical side of GAP is that we promote diversity and inclusion. That is important because the way who you are is the key message for the organization. And that is the service that we provide to our customers. So I'm here to talk about it and share my experience and organizational experience to the guests today. So thank you for inviting me.
Fantastic, thank you, welcome. And Yumi-san, how about yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much, and then good evening, everyone. And again, thank you everyone for making this possible, for having me. So I'm Mimi Takahata from Deloitte, Japan. Deloitte is a global network providing professional services such as audit and assurance, consulting, etc. And I lead diversity and inclusion, taking both qualitative and quantitative approach to empower the difference, such as in gender, sexuality, ethnicity, culture, disabilities, value, beliefs, and all kinds of different things as a source of organizational strength. And speaking about myself, my passion for diversity and inclusion comes from my craving for interaction with different culture and inspiration that I can get from people with different backgrounds while I was born and raised in Japan. So last but not least, I am proud to be an advocating ally, and I am so happy and extremely honored to be here today. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. So for Pride Month, what does your organization do in terms of Pride Month and to celebrate that? Yumi-san, start with you on this one.
Sure. I will go through each one of the initiatives later on, but at Deloitte, providing professional services, diversity and inclusion is clearly a business strategy as a source of further innovation and transformation. Because without diversified perspectives, we cannot stay resilient as an organization and provide innovative solutions to our clients and tackle this uncertain and disruptive times. That's all we do at Deloitte. So it's really crucial business case. And for that reason, we embrace and empower both visible and invisible diversity, which is of course including LGBT+ and allyship. So specifically about allyship in our office, around 3 years ago, one of my colleagues who had been working as a woman for 10 years since joined the firm, decided to come out of the closet to be his authentic self. It was the very first case for us to support a transgender member's transition, not just internally, but also externally, especially with the clients and other stakeholders. And all our initiatives have started there and have been growing with his courage. And I still clearly remember the day when that person wore the men's suits in the office for the very first time. And he said it was his lifetime dream. And at first we were all happy for him that his dream came true. But then we couldn't help but wonder why it has to be a dream. So I guess that was the time we all got mixed feelings, being reminded how primitive and mundane things are not yet granted in this society, therefore it needs specific initiatives in business.
Wow, that's very powerful. It's a very brave individual, and then it also kind of brings home the realization of where we're at in business and how far we have to come to make sure that our own employees feel comfortable in their skin in the office, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. So Nai-san, what's Pride Month mean for you at GAP?
Yes, a gap is, as you may know, that it started with the two representative men and women, Mr. and Mrs. Fisher, and they started the organization. And that is also inclusive because back then there's a very few organizations, even still now, the head of an organization like Gap size, leading women is one of the co-owner. So that is a passion to include everybody so that we can be ourselves. So onboarding package, when I joined Gap, I got the first page said, please dress up as you like, because dressing up is part of your way to express yourself. And you almost need to pledge yourself, to be authentic the way you are. So I was really happy to see that because that applies to not just me, but including the LGBTQ members of the company. So Pride Month is particularly important because we will reaffirm, be ourselves, be the best version of yourself is ultimate goal, so that we can be most productive. We'll probably open up our mind and we'll share our thoughts. And instead of being timid or being hidden or being not included, that's not practical. And as an HR manager, for me, the production and also performance is absolutely important. And that should be the focus, and not to hide yourself so that you cannot express yourself. That is not something that we're not looking for. So Pride Month is important for us.
That's great. So I love that. Be the best version of yourself, and
Yes.
that helps to really bring out the best for your people. So I think a lot of the people who signed up tonight had questions around what you both initiatives that you're doing within your organizations, and really how they can help their organization, whether it's an NPO or an educational organization or a business, because I think a lot of us want to be able to make sure that we're reaching out and engaging our employees the best that we can and get the best out of them, and that they feel comfortable to bring their ideas and the freedom to be themselves. So hopefully we can learn from you both. So Naya-san, let's start with you with what kind of some of the initiatives that GAP's been bringing.
Yes, as Yuta-san said, that be the vocal for the community. To that regard, we create the shop to be rainbow colored. We also provide T-shirt and handbags to our employees and customers, and try to show that we support the other community. For example, same-sex marriage is, it's not legal in Japan, but as long as they claim themselves, we provide the similar package to, all the employees, so that the marriage is of course welcome. And also a leader, the head of GAP, I'll show you the picture later on. His name is Steve. He's openly gay, and he is the one who's leading the seminar. And we all need to take the class so that we are aware of this month. So leader himself is talking about the importance of being ally. And that helps us to re-educate ourselves what's important for the organization. And of course, that will be getting back to the customers. That's probably most important, so that the customer feels comfortable or shopping at Gap.
Do you want to go through your slide now?
Oh, sure. Okay. So very briefly, as I mentioned that, so being Japanese, living in San Francisco wasn't always easy at the back in the 80s and 90s. And when I felt at the time that not being yourself is just not so productive, and feels like you are not always belong to the mainstream America. And what I did was I tried to be mainstream Americans, try to, maybe I wanted to be a member of Friends. And so I wasn't invited. And so when I look at my feeling back then, not being myself is just not really productive. I try to be always quiet. I always being somehow shameful the way I am. But the today's, Yumi-san said, that today's reality changes so fast. When I was in San Francisco, wearing mask when I feel sick was something unusual. But today, that is, of course, a universal, thing. And my mom gave me nori for bento lunchbox, and I was ashamed for because I didn't have sandwich like other Americans. But now, having sushi is something cool. So the reality changes. So the gap itself is really promoting the cultural change. So could you show me the slide, the next page? So a lot of activities, sorry about the small writing, but the rainbow color to represent the way who we are. And also we got the gold award for the, to support the initiative. And also we are a silver sponsor back in the 2018 and try to demonstrate that we support the authentic of you. And the next page, please. So this is such a cool thing, DJ wearing the rainbow colored t-shirt. And of course, the Tokyo Pride Parade, we try to celebrate the initiative so that the people will see how we represent. We don't just sell clothes, we sell a culture and value that we represent so that we can express the way we are.
That's great.
Okay, and then next page. And the leader, so this is the Steve that I was talking about. He's the head of China and Japan, and he talks about his, importance of being openly gay as a leader and the Rainbow Pride. He is accompanied with his partner and his children, and you can see the leaders of GAP is lining up and looks so happy. Okay, so I mentioned that the importance of, covering, faking, assimilating, diversity or inclusion, hiding, or being quiet. Those are not a very practical way for us to be authentic and speaking up, unique to ourselves, diversity and inclusion altogether, sharing our thoughts, speaking up. Those are so important because unless you present who you really are, you're not going to perform well. You'll be so isolated, you'll be so alone. But showing who you are, you'll be having you may not be in the friends. I think they are having a reunion. I'm not invited again, but you have your own friend. Just be yourself and open up yourself, and that will really lead the performance as well. So focus on your uniqueness is so important in GAP, and we're going to continue to strive ourselves to be a best version of you, and that is the culture that we want to represent. I hope that's practical for everybody.
Great. Thank
Isn't that
you.
cool?
It's great. It's a great storefront too, right? It's wonderful.
Yeah, store. It's so cool.
How about Yumi-san? Let's jump over to you for Deloitte and the initiatives. And do you want to go through your slide as well?
Sure. Do you have my one pager?
There we go.
Great, thank you. So just briefly, our allyship initiatives have 3 pillars from quantitative and qualitative perspectives. So as a workplace inclusion, we have a dedicated consultation team who handles all the internal inquiries and concerns, as well as making policies and infrastructures like installing unisex bathrooms on each floors of our office, etc. But the most important thing is to have leadership commitment, as Sanae-san also mentioned. You can see our CEO declaring himself as CAO, Chief Ally Officer. We took this photo when we won the benchmark award of gold over Pride Index for 3 consecutive years. And as awareness and education, we have mandatory learning sessions for the entire office, of course, both globally shared one and locally tailored one, focusing on respect and inclusion, unconscious bias and everything. And we do have LGBT+ specific session, which is about an hour contents and with lots of cases and discussions from the realistic business scenes. And not just within Deloitte, but we do this kind of sessions externally, including our clients, of course, and the local schools as our pro bono programs to connect the dots to spread the allyship in Japan. And also I am wearing my office ID lanyards today. I'm at my home, but I'm just wearing this today. Well, we're a B2B business and we don't have a proper point of sales like Gap or Lego, but we can still sell this kind of ally goodies internally at Deloitte Japan. And the whole sales goes to donation of nonprofits supporting LGBT plus community. And the pro bono sessions and these donations are also part of our global commitment called the World Class, aiming to produce 50 millions of impact to the society by 2030. And as a networking and communication, as our ally network, ERG, Employee Resource Group community consists of 150 members. And you can take a look at our brochure and stories on our website where our LGBT plus members telling their authentic stories, including what it was like to come out of the closet at Deloitte and how our leaders became better leaders after being their authentic selves and our allies. That encourages another LGBT plus members to be comfortable joining Deloitte as their next career, along with other communication and media content and events like Tokyo Rainbow Pride, as you can see in the picture. And for other items on social impact, globally, we have signed a United Nations standard conduct called Free and Equal. And in Japan, we have joined the several official charters such as Equality Act Japan and Business for Marriage Equality, which was the one who worked on a historical and phenomenal case that Yuta-san has earlier mentioned, ended up with one of the local court judges in Japan ruling that banning the same-sex marriage was against the constitution. So we had joined before this win, and when we knew about the case result, we couldn't be prouder to know it did happen, and we were actually part of it. So these are a quick overview of what our allyship initiatives at Deloitte Japan. I mean, still lots of work on the plate, but stay tuned, I would say. I hope it was a bit of productive. It was very brief, but.
So I have a couple of questions just to follow up with both you based around what you presented, because I think you both had talked about getting buy-in from your top management, and there's obviously a grassroots level. But I know that there's a challenge with mid-management, right? Because those managers are the ones that are working the day-to-day on the floor. They're the ones that are trying to put out fires or try to get buy-in. And it also brings up another question that I know a couple of our participants tonight had, which was around conservative mindsets and how to get buy-in from that. So I think the two kind of relate together. How would you recommend for organizations to really drive that buy-in from a conservative mindset or from a middle management that might have that challenge? Let's start with Sanai-san.
Yes, David, that is a very typical, question that a lot of people have. It's because I think that's the key to move everything, forward. Having the middle management class to buy in is actually a challenge. Therefore, I think the continuous education is important. As Steve is running the seminar by himself, he is talking to you basically through the video, but he is looking at you, and you are important for part of our organization. And please consider the LGBTQ teams are also important to a team, so that it becomes like not just dividing you and I, but we type of communication is important, because everyone has different affiliation, and not everyone feels perfectly fine alone. You work with others, and teamwork is important. So having the message is strong message is important, and the grassroots root is important. And also customer is driving the business, and they will let us know if you're not performing from the direction. And Gap is obviously open for that, and we can get good talent because of we are open, and also we get the good customers, to shop for us.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the continued driving of message is important because it is a slow process. It's almost glacially slow. It feels like at times things do move on, but you can't just give up, and it's not just saying something once. It's continuous, right?
Right, right. Pride Parade. I hear that some people think it's too festivity, too much party going on. But I think it's a necessary step. At the beginning, it may be perceived as a party, but that's a good family gathering, parade, walking together, thinking about LGBTQ together. I think that's the key. But as you said, continuation is really driving the result.
That's great. Thank you. Yumi-san, what do you want to talk around that a little bit around the kind of conservative mindset?
Sure. First of all, again, equal to Sanai-san, awareness and education is crucial, very, very crucial, in addition to the leadership, set the tone kind of, mindset. And also, we have to bear in mind that the LGBT plus is an invisible diversity. And as Yuta-san mentioned, it is said that it's 8 to 10% of the total population. And then because it's invisible, it may be someone next to you working in your team. And then when you say like 8 to 10% of the population is almost like total population of left-handed people, or the total population ratio of Kanagawa prefecture in Japan. So it could be anyone. You have left,
right?
exactly. So, we really have to make sure that, we are aware that it's not like super special thing. It could be anyone. So set the tone from the top, as well as, as the whole mindset, and also right after business case of not having inclusion and having inclusion. What are the risks? What are the benefits and all those things? I know it's not limited only for LGBT plus initiatives, but the entire DNI, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting questions, and I think we could be here all night, but for the respect of time, let's finish up around an omiyage, something that maybe our participants can take back to their office, their workplace, that they could, that you would think would be, something that would be resonate with them tonight. If you had something to say around that, Yumi-san?
Sure. I think I gave a lot of cases and initiatives at Deloitte, Japan. But what we call at Deloitte is embassy model. What it means by making each one of our workplaces more inclusive for community members, in this case LGBT plus people, each workplace can function as embassies and safe places. Whatever the progress or regress of the central government were to make, just like happening right now, and each ally members can be the ambassadors with the collected voices to advocate towards the local communities, connecting the dots of allyship, and eventually work towards the central government to change the society and then the world, because there still is a huge structural bias that makes structural imbalance in the whole system that needs to be brought to attention. So I would say, think about the embassy and ambassadors, I would say.
That's great. Thank you so much. Sanai-san?
Yeah, so my message here is that the being yourself and how we're going to ally to each other. I'm getting a lot of support from LGBTQ crowd, and also having a diverse thoughts and inclusive mindset is the key to go through this difficult time. Having a different mindset, different view is like having a side mirror of driving your car. And without the mirror, you may not know that what's coming from your, right or left. So having the mirror is the key, and allyship is the way for us to break through the hardship. So let's continue to work on this and enjoy the rainbow with love.
That's an excellent image. I love that image. With a side mirror, just to be aware. As a pitch for Yumi-san, last time she did an image of baking a pie. So I encourage people to go back and watch a copy of that webinar and what Yumi was saying around that too. I think that's wonderful. A huge round of applause for both of you. I'm sure everybody is applauding you. But as our time is up, I'm going to do just a real quick closing remarks. First, thank you, Yumi-san, Sanai-san, wonderful. I want a big shout out to Mimi-san and Yuta over at Ikigai Authentic. They've done just a fantastic job of putting this together and organizing this. And just as a quick message for myself as an executive recruiter running FocusCore in Japan, there's still a shortage of exceptional talent in Japan, and we do surveys of employees and what they want. And one of the things that's just apparent is that over and above, they want someplace they can go and be comfortable. And if companies aren't providing that environment, those employees are going to go somewhere else. And the war in talent will be won with those that as Yumi and Sanai-san had pointed out, where people can be the best version of themselves. And I love Yumi-san's pointed out that you just need to take small steps, and it's taking that small step. So myself and FocusCore, we're happy to sponsor this event with Ikigai Authentic and helping companies adopt forward-thinking, inclusive policies that empower individuals to thrive. So thank you so much. Over to you, Yuta-san.
Oh, thank you, David-san. What a strong message from Sanai-san and Yumi-san. I wish they could hear, but please give them like huge applause. Yeah. Thank you so much. Also, thank all of you for joining this seminar. It means a lot to us. So, we are humbly honored to, hosting this event together with, the FocusCore and the U.S. Japan Council, as well as, big support from Deloitte Japan and the Gap Japan. So, so as ourselves, Ikigai is still quite small boutique company. However, working together with us as other company, other organization like this, making much bigger impact. So we are always here to work together with all of you, on the project basis or anything. Also, we are delighted to hold the internal seminar for you. It is really critical. We are talking about how we can change people's mindset. Or then, it is critical to have them think how, they can align the LGBTQ inclusion with business objectives. Having said that, it is really important to provide bespoke seminars or information for your industries or sectors or corporate culture. So we are always here to help you creating that momentum. So please feel free to contact us anytime. We are always here to help with you. Thank you. So I'll back to the Himeno-san, MC of ours.
Thank you very much. And that, everyone, brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I hope you have a lovely end to Pride Month 2021. Thank you very much.